This is my friend's story. He resembles my rival more. But I've always respected him. In everything, he is a step ahead of me. Though we were brothers to each other. Call him William to protect his anonymity. And Jane, his spouse. The names are fake, so go ahead and fast forward. Jane, 25 years old, married William when he was 23. They are also parents to a son. Everything went well when they met while trekking. Jane was a good woman and a smooth talker. She was there for my wife, who has breast cancer. Jane was like an older sister to my wife, though William never expressed any reservations about her. He said over a year ago that Jane seems distant and possessive of her phone. He informed me they hadn't had sex in over 6 months, and she continuously turned down his efforts towards intimacy. She arrived home about 4 a.m. on their wedding anniversary. I told him there were a number of warning flags and that she was probably seeing someone. He said that, while he had sensed it for a long, he refused to accept the possibility. Thus it went on, like how she began to visit my wife seldom. After I informed my wife about his problem, she agreed to discreetly locate it. After their private talk, my wife informed me that she was seeing a guy, but that it was strictly platonic and that he is a brilliant technician. Both my spouse and I were aware of where this was going. When I told William about the situation, he said, "I am sure Jaden would not do that. I adore her. She would not behave that way. We can at least get by if I suggest he hire a private investigator." Despite engaging a private investigator, he was unable to find any suspicious activities. 3 months later, he created a picture. He just has that. In the photo, she is seen holding hands with a man exiting a theater. When he called, he said that he needed to speak with me. He seemed to be a total failure, as if he had lost everything. He grins and asks, "What went wrong?" I'm aware of his suicidal ideas. He and I went to a tavern and drank unlimited drinks. She wasn't what I thought of, he added as he opened up. She has not cleaned the house in over 3 months and is entirely focused on our baby. She just kisses my forehead before and after bedtime. She claims she needs some space or is simply tired. How should I proceed? I knew he was broke. I gave him confidence and told him he wasn't alone over many years. He had the support of numerous other men, including his friend's gang. He soon decided that she wasn't worth it, so he ended the marriage and began dating a lady at work. We worked for the same organization, but in different divisions. We both were digital artists. Will eventually came to know Helena. He was older than she was. He said, "I'm going to enjoy my life," as he introduced her to me. She resembled a model, similar to the spy characters in video games. They appeared to be in a relationship, having had multiple hookups. He was comfortable and didn't care about Jane. Things began to alter once Jane noticed he was delighted and felt distant. She then approached me and inquired about Will's whereabouts and if he was seeing anybody. However, I lied. She confessed to her husband that she had been having an affair for more than a year during Christmas. That she realizes how lovely Will is and how important their marriage is. Will questioned her about the details while trying not to weep. She stated that it was a mistake and that we could get back together. "It's over between them," he said. He asked her to go because he needed a divorce. After that, she went to her mother's house and kept calling and texting. It was at this time that Will opened an account with a second bank, moved his money there, and so forth. Half of the money they pulled out of the joint account was set aside for her. She begged him not to divorce her while sobbing. By then, Will had moved on, and Jane had attempted suicide while promising Will she would do anything. Besides, she was reliant on him. She won't give up easily. Will never once attempted to pay her a visit at the medical facility. After the discharge, she arrived to his residence and spilt all the beans. Saying he needed more details, he asked her to speak first. Nothing, not even a try again, as Will had always believed that love could endure any storm. He was a devoted husband to Jane and a caring father to their son, a bright little boy who deserved nothing but happiness. However, the foundation of their family began to crack when Jane's affair became the catalyst for a destructive chain of events. It started innocently enough. Jane had met a nearby mechanic when her car broke down. In her vulnerable state, she found herself captivated by the attention he gave her, a welcome reprieve from the loneliness she felt at home. It wasn't long before they swapped numbers, and their connection quickly deepened. What began as friendly conversations morphed into a passionate and heated romance within just a month. While Jane was supposed to be a devoted wife and mother, she started slipping away from her responsibilities, seeking solace in the arms of her lover. The allure of this new relationship offered her an escape from the mundane realities of her life. On their anniversary, and during their son's birthday, Jane's betrayal reached new depths. Will, eager to celebrate with her, was met with the devastating revelation that she was with her lover, having sex instead of joining him for their son's special day. The very thought shattered Will's heart. In a fit of rage, Will unleashed a torrent of anger, calling Jane every name in the book. He couldn't fathom how she could prioritize her affair over their family. Jane, realizing the weight of her mistakes, pleaded with him to think about their child, claiming they could still be a family. But Will's heart had hardened. He felt that meeting her had been a mistake, and he was done with her empty promises. "You're nothing but dead meat," he spat, pushing her away both physically and emotionally. Desperate, Jane clung to Will's legs, begging him to stay. "I won't stop at anything to make this work," she cried, dismissing her partner in the affair as meaningless. But Will had seen through the facade. A week before Christmas, her lover abandoned her, leaving Jane in a state of despair. He knew she was emotionally attached to her affair partner, yet he also recognized that he had no choice but to take her back. In their country, adultery wasn't a sufficient reason for divorce unless there was concrete proof to support the claim. Will, lacking strong evidence, felt trapped. Despite his feelings for Jane being far from love, he established strict guidelines for their relationship. "You'll do the washing and clean the house," he told her. "If you don't follow my rules, you're out." Will's demeanor grew increasingly distant, almost cruel. After they had sex, he would often throw her out of their shared bed, instructing her to sleep on the guest bed, as if she were nothing more than a stranger. He treated her with disdain, frequently berating her for minor mistakes. It was as if he derived pleasure from her pain, wielding psychological abuse like a weapon. When she confronted him about Helena, the woman he had taken an interest in, he coldly informed her that she was free to leave. The situation worsened as Jane sought solace from Will's wife, seeking tips on how to salvage her marriage. It was a twisted irony. Jane, the one who had broken their vows, now looked to the woman she had wronged for guidance. My wife, however, was depressed by the turmoil surrounding Jane's situation. In a moment of vulnerability, Jane confided that Will never allowed her to share a bed and often rejected her advances. It became increasingly apparent that Jane's mental state was deteriorating, and her attempts to reconnect with Will were met with ridicule. Despite her desperate efforts, Jane was still rejected time and again. She would dress up and visit him, seeking validation and affection, but Will only made fun of her, calling her immature. The emotional toll of this turbulent relationship weighed heavily on her, leaving her in a state of confusion and despair. Will's treatment of Jane was unforgiving. He often belittled her, implying that if she failed to meet his expectations, her affair partner would be waiting in the wings to take care of things. The emotional abuse escalated. He would accuse her of infidelity while deflecting the blame onto her, claiming that her inadequacies in the bedroom were the reason for his actions. The child they had together became a pawn in their toxic game. As Jane turned to my wife for comfort, it became evident that this pattern of abuse and manipulation would only lead to further destruction. The community began to take notice, with many expressing their dismay over the toxic dynamics at play. Comments flooded in, highlighting the deep-rooted issues both Will and Jane faced. They were two damaged individuals caught in a vicious cycle of betrayal, anger, and resentment. "Why not just get a divorce?" one commenter asked, echoing the thoughts of many who had witnessed their deteriorating relationship. The notion of staying together out of convenience or for the sake of their child was met with skepticism. How could they raise a son in such a toxic environment? The emotional scars they inflicted upon each other were visible, and it was clear that their son was suffering in silence. The heartbreaking truth was that neither Will nor Jane was willing to confront their issues directly. Jane clung to the hope of rekindling a love that had long since faded, while Will remained emotionally unavailable, consumed by his anger and resentment. They were trapped in a dance of denial, each unwilling to acknowledge the consequences of their actions. As the community continued to weigh in, opinions varied widely. Some argued that Jane deserved the pain she experienced, while others believed that both she and Will needed to seek individual therapy to break free from their toxic patterns. The consensus was clear: their son was the innocent victim in this drama, deserving of a stable and loving environment. In a moment of clarity, one commenter remarked on the tragedy unfolding before them: "Their child is the only person who truly deserves sympathy. In this narrative, the weight of their decisions would undoubtedly impact him for the rest of his life." leaving scars that might never fully heal. With mounting pressure from those around them, and the realization that their son was suffering, both Will and Jane found themselves at a crossroads. The time had come for them to either confront their demons or risk dragging their child deeper into the abyss of their broken marriage. As the dust settled, it became increasingly evident that healing would require more than just superficial attempts at reconciliation. It demanded courage, honesty, and a willingness to face the consequences of their actions, both for their sake and for the future of their child. In the end, it was clear that their journey was far from over. With each passing day, the burden of their choices grew heavier, but the possibility of redemption and healing still lingered on the horizon. Whether they would choose to embrace that possibility or remain trapped in their toxic cycle remained to be seen.